Hello, and welcome to Federal Flash. I'm Nikki McKinney, and I'm joined by Lindsay Dworkin. Since our last flash, President Trump announced his nominee to serve as Assistant Secretary for the Office of Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education. The department announced the rescission of a number of guidance documents, and the House Republican tax plan was released. For more, let's turn to Lindsay.
Thanks, Nikki. President Trump nominated Kenneth Marcus to serve as the Education Department's Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, one of the most high-profile positions within the department. Many of you may recognize his name, as he served in the same capacity under President George W. Bush. Some of the most contentious issues, including bathroom access for transgender students and campus sexual assault enforcement, are handled by the Office of Civil Rights. If confirmed by the Senate, Mr. Marcus would take over the duties of Candace Jackson, who has been heading the agency in an acting capacity since last spring.
The department announced earlier this week that it plans to withdraw nearly 600 sub-regulatory guidance documents that they characterize as out of date. The guidance spans K-12, special education, higher education, and career and technical education, among other areas. Sub-regulatory guidance is one way federal agencies are able to provide stakeholders clarification on statutory and regulatory provisions, as well as insight into how the agency will interpret or enforce those provisions. As statutes, programs, and regulations are amended or eliminated, some guidance documents become moot and new guidance is created but fails to be fully withdrawn. This effort by the department is to officially rescind the guidance which is no longer relevant. Education advocates and policymakers agree that some guidance is clearly outdated, but are carefully combing through the list to see what, if any, implications there may be on education programs and services. To access the full report and list of withdrawn guidance, visit the link below.
Finally, House Republicans released a sweeping rewrite of the tax code yesterday. Dubbed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the bill lays out a $1.5 trillion plan to cut taxes for corporations and purportedly reduce them for middle-class families. Why are we discussing a tax bill on the Federal Flash? Because the manner in which tax cuts are paid for or not paid for can result in an increase in the federal budget deficit. And when the federal budget deficit balloons, lawmakers often use it as a rationale for reducing spending on discretionary programs like education, healthcare, and social services. Over the coming days and weeks, you will undoubtedly hear about a provision in the Republicans' proposal to cap the deduction for state and local taxes at $10,000. This deduction currently applies to state and local income taxes, general sales taxes, as well as property taxes. Many economists agree that eliminating or reducing the deduction would put significant pressure on state and local governments to reduce the tax burden they place on individuals. That, in turn, would likely cut down on the tax revenue available to public schools.
Thanks, Lindsay. What you've outlined are just some of the ways in which a tax reform proposal could impact federal, state, and local funding for education. Tax reform and tax cuts make for great talking points and sound bites for politicians, but there are always consequences, and those of us who care about education must be aware of them. Republicans plan to move the proposal quickly. The House of Representatives Committee with jurisdiction over taxation is scheduled to consider the bill on Monday. If passed, the legislation would be sent to the floor of the House for consideration soon thereafter, with the goal of sending a bill to the Senate before the end of the month and to the President's desk before Christmas. That said, ambitious timelines for passing legislation have proved difficult, even with both chambers being controlled by Republicans. Complicating matters further is that the bill is already receiving its fair share of criticism from members of Congress and special interest groups across the political spectrum. To read the House bill in its entirety or the 82-page summary, yes, the summary is 82 pages, visit the link below. That's all for now. For an email alert when the next episode of Federal Flash is available, email us at alliance@allfored.org. Thanks for watching. Federal Flash is the Alliance for Excellent Education's video series on important developments in education policy in Washington, D.C. in 5 minutes or less.